A quiet summer. A neighbor's son returns. One kiss under the rain changes everything. I told myself it was wrong, but my heart had already chosen. I still remember the day Tyler left for college like it happened just yesterday. He was this quiet, well-mannered boy who used to help me carry groceries from my car or mow the lawn when my husband was too busy. I used to think of him like a little brother. Or at least I tried to convince myself of that. But deep inside, I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the way he'd grown over the years. Taller, broader, stronger. His voice had deepened in a way that sent unexpected chills through my spine. And when he smiled, it wasn't a boy's smile anymore. It was something else. Something confident and knowing. But I stayed in my lane. After all, I was older. Married. My name's Rachel. I'm 32, a freelance interior designer, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio. My husband, Daniel, works in real estate and his long hours often leave me alone. I've gotten used to it. Or so I thought. Tyler had been gone for nearly 4 years. I hadn't seen much of him since he left for college in California. He didn't visit much during breaks, and even if he did, it was for a couple of days at most. His parents were sweet folks, Susan and Ron, and they would sometimes share stories about what a star student he was, how well he was doing, and how proud they were. But nothing prepared me for the moment he walked through their front gate that summer afternoon. I was in the garden, watering my roses, the sun warm on my back. My old straw hat cast a shadow over my eyes, but I still saw him, tall, confident, walking like he owned the place. He had changed. Rachel. His voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned, blinking. My mouth opened, but no sound came out for a second. He looked like someone out of a dream, his messy hair, sun-kissed skin, arms that had clearly spent time lifting weights, and those deep eyes, they weren't the same. Tyler. Finally managed. He smiled, the kind of smile that could melt glass. You remember me? I laughed nervously. How could I forget? Look at you. You're all grown up. I guess 4 years does that, he said, stepping closer. You look exactly the same. Beautiful. His words caught me off guard. My cheeks warmed. I told myself it was the sun, but I knew better. Thank you, I murmured, brushing a lock of hair behind my ear. Your mom must be so happy you're home. She is. But she's not the one I wanted to see first. There was a pause. A silence that stretched between us. I could feel it, the unspoken tension, warm and pulsing like electricity in the air. I looked away quickly. So, how long are you staying? I asked, my voice a little too breathless. All summer. I got an internship here, he said. Figured it's time to be back where everything started. That night I couldn't sleep. His voice, that smile, the way he looked at me, it all replayed in my mind like a song on loop. I told myself I was being silly. He was just being polite. Friendly. I was older. Married. This wasn't supposed to be anything more. But the universe had its own plans. The very next day Tyler knocked on my door. I was home alone. Daniel was away on a 2-week business trip in Boston. I opened the door to find him standing there with a dish in his hands. My mom baked too much apple pie. Thought you might like some, he said with a grin. I invited him in. I shouldn't have. But I did. We sat in the kitchen. He leaned back in the chair with a relaxed posture, legs stretched out, fingers slowly tracing the edge of his glass. His gaze didn't wander much. It stayed on me. I could feel it, heavy, intense. You know, he said after a moment, when I was younger I used to watch you from my window. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. What do you mean? He smirked slightly, eyes glinting. I used to think you were the most beautiful woman in the world. You still are. My breath caught. Tyler. I whispered, not quite sure how to respond. I know it sounds crazy, he continued, leaning forward, his voice lower, smoother, but I used to imagine what it'd be like to be old enough to say this to you. And now I am. I laughed nervously, trying to break the tension. Well, I'm flattered. Truly. But you were just a boy back then. Not anymore, he said quietly. His hand brushed against mine. Just for a second. Second too long. I stood up quickly. I should probably get back to work. He nodded, a knowing smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Of course. Just wanted to say hi. As he walked away, I leaned against the door, heart pounding in my chest like a drum. What was happening to me? In the days that followed, Tyler became a regular visitor. Sometimes he brought coffee. Sometimes just stories from his internship. But always there was something unspoken between us. Something dangerous. Something forbidden. And then came the evening that changed everything. I was out on the patio wearing my favorite sundress. Light, airy, a little short for my usual taste. The air was thick and humid, and I sipped lemonade as the sun dipped below the horizon. Tyler appeared at the gate holding a small bag. "I brought you something," he said, walking in without waiting for a response. He handed me the bag, a beautiful sketchbook and a set of charcoal pencils. "You said you used to draw," he explained. "Thought you might want to get back into it." I blinked, touched. "That's really thoughtful of you." "I meant it," he said. "I've been thinking about you. A lot." My pulse quickened. "Tyler." He stepped closer. His eyes locked on mine. "I know you're married. I know this is wrong. But I need you to know something." I didn't move. I couldn't. "I'm not here just for the summer. I'm here because I wanted to see you. Because I can't get you out of my head. And I think you feel it too." I swallowed hard. "You shouldn't say things like that. Then tell me to leave. Tell me you don't feel it." I couldn't. We stood there, inches apart, the air between us humming with tension. His breath mingled with mine. My heart beat like a drum in my chest. I should have stopped it. But I didn't. Instead, I whispered, "I don't know what's happening to me." Tyler reached up, gently brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You're remembering who you are. What it feels like to be seen. Wanted." His words undid something inside me. Something I'd locked away for far too long. Then, just as his lips inched closer, the distant sound of a car door slamming jolted us apart. I gasped, stepping back, clutching the glass in my hand like an anchor. "We shouldn't," I murmured. "I know," he said. "But I'm not sorry." He turned and walked away. That night, I stared at the ceiling, torn between guilt and desire. My husband's calls felt cold and mechanical. Tyler made me feel alive. And I knew this story wasn't over. It had only just begun. I told myself I would forget that moment. That I would move on. That the way Tyler looked at me, the way he made me feel, was just a fleeting fantasy. A mistake of the moment. But fantasies don't go away that easily. For the next few days I avoided stepping out too much. I stayed behind curtains, avoided the garden, and made excuses to keep my mind busy. Work, cleaning, even reorganizing my spice rack. But nothing worked. Because every quiet second, my mind drifted back to that evening. To the way he brushed the hair from my face. To the way his voice dropped when he said I was remembering what it felt like to be wanted. I couldn't stop thinking about that word, wanted. It had been so long since anyone made me feel that way. Daniel loved me in his own distant way. But love without presence is just a memory. Tyler wasn't just present, he saw me. And that scared me more than anything. I thought I was doing a good job keeping my distance. Until one afternoon the sky turned an ominous shade of gray. Thunder cracked and soon a full-blown summer storm swept over the neighborhood. The lights flickered then went out. I lit some candles and pulled a blanket around me. I was curled up on the couch, staring out the window at the sheets of rain when there was a knock at the door. I froze. Another knock. Louder. I got up slowly, barefoot, the air cool against my skin. I opened the door just a crack. It was him. Soaked from head to toe. A hoodie clung to his body, hair dripping, eyes wild from the rain. "Power's out at my place," he said. "Mom and Dad are at Aunt Kelly's and I didn't want to sit in the dark alone." He didn't wait for me to say anything. He just looked at me. Waited. Not with impatience but with hope. I hesitated. Every fiber in my body warned me not to open that door. But every beat of my heart begged me to. I stepped aside. He walked in. The moment the door shut, the air changed. I offered him a towel. He took it with a smile, drying his face, rubbing his arms, his shirt lifting slightly, revealing just a sliver of skin. I looked away. But he noticed. "You okay?" he asked gently. "I should be asking you that." He chuckled. "I'm fine. Just couldn't stop thinking about you." There it was again. No games. No pretending. I looked at him, searching for any sign that this was a joke, that he'd laugh and say he was just teasing. But he didn't. He just stood there waiting. I sat on the couch, needing the distance, needing a breath. He sat beside me. Close enough to feel, far enough to pretend we were still in control. The rain pounded harder outside. The wind howled through the trees. Inside, everything was silent. except my heart. It wouldn't stop racing. He turned to me. I meant what I said the other night. I've thought about you for years. I'm not a kid anymore. And I know what I want. I looked at him, eyes wide, mouth dry. You don't understand, I whispered. This isn't just a crush. I'm married. I know. It's wrong. Maybe. I could ruin everything. Or you could finally feel something real. That last line broke something in me. Because deep down I wanted to feel. To stop living on autopilot. To remember what it was like to ache for someone's touch. To be desired. He leaned in slightly. Not too close. Just enough for me to feel his breath. Do you want me to leave? He asked. I didn't answer. My silence was its own confession. He lifted his hand, slow, reverent, and brushed his fingers along the edge of my cheek. I let him. I didn't stop him. I closed my eyes and let the moment wash over me like the rain outside. He whispered, you don't have to be afraid of how you feel. I opened my eyes. And in them he saw everything. I've tried not to feel it, I confessed. But every time I see you, it's like something inside me wakes up. He smiled, not a boyish grin this time, but something deeper. Then let it. He leaned in. I didn't pull away. Our lips didn't meet, not yet. But they hovered just a breath apart, sharing the same air, the same tension, the same longing. But then just before the kiss I pulled back. I stood up, heart thundering. I can't, I whispered. Not yet. He nodded. He didn't pout. Didn't pressure. Just stood slowly. He said. I'll wait. And then he walked to the door. Before he left, he turned to me and said something I'll never forget. I'm not going to disappear again. I'm here. And I'm not going to stop reminding you what it feels like to be wanted. Until you remember it for yourself. Then he was gone. And I was left standing in the candlelight, trembling, wondering how a boy who used to mow my lawn had become the man who turned my world upside down. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about his words, his touch, the look in his eyes. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what I was feeling. I was afraid of how badly I wanted more. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. There was something different in the way I looked at myself. Not my makeup or hair, something in my eyes. A reflection of something stirring. Something I had buried for far too long. It had been 2 days since the storm. 2 days since Tyler stood in my living room, rain-soaked and vulnerable, and bold. I told myself I did the right thing. I stopped it before it could become something irreversible. But the truth? I regretted stopping him. That thought alone was terrifying. I kept expecting him to show up again like he always did. But he didn't. Not the next day. Not the one after that. And the more the silence stretched between us, the more restless I became. It was late Thursday evening when I saw him again. I had gone for a walk around the neighborhood just after sunset. The sky was streaked in soft gold and lavender, and a warm breeze rustled the trees. I wore a simple white sundress, nothing special, but somehow as I passed the hedge between our homes, I felt eyes on me. I turned, and there he was. Tyler was leaning against the porch railing, arms crossed, watching me. His expression unreadable. But the moment our eyes met, my breath caught. Because there was heat in his gaze. Hunger. And restraint. He walked toward me slowly, each step steady, calculated, as if he was giving me time to change my mind. I didn't. Hey, I said, my voice low. Hey. His voice wrapped around me like a soft blanket. I wasn't sure if he wanted to see me again. I wasn't sure either. He tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly. But here you are. I nodded, feeling exposed in a way that had nothing to do with what I was wearing. I was thinking, he said carefully, maybe we could take a walk. Just talk. No pressure. I smiled. Just a walk. Scout's honor. I laughed. You were never a scout. True. But I'm willing to be honest. Starting now. We walked along the empty street, side by side, not touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. We talked about his internship, my projects, our favorite music. The kind of conversation that should have felt normal. But nothing about us was normal anymore. After a while, we found ourselves behind the community garden, near the small, quiet park that was always empty after dusk. We sat on a bench beneath a tree, the lamplight flickering overhead. He turned to me, his tone more serious now. I need to ask you something. I looked at him, heart already bracing. Did I imagine it? That moment. The way you looked at me that night. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was messy. Dangerous. No, I said finally. You didn't imagine it. His shoulders relaxed, but his gaze stayed sharp. Then why did you stop it? Because I'm scared, I admitted. Of what it means. Of what I'd lose. Of what it would make me. He shifted closer, his voice almost a whisper now. It wouldn't make you anything but honest. A long silence stretched between us. Then without warning, thunder rumbled in the distance. The air changed, again. Not heavy like before but charged. He looked up, grinning. Seems like the universe has a pattern when we're alone. I smiled. Maybe it's warning us. Or maybe it's pushing us. His fingers brushed against mine on the bench. I didn't move away. The wind picked up and a few drops of rain began to fall. Light, gentle, teasing. Come on, he said, standing up and holding out his hand. Let's not wait to regret again. I stared at his hand for a second. Then I took it. He led me beneath the big tree near the swing set and we stood there, rain slowly soaking through the air. I felt the droplets on my skin, cold and real. Then he reached up, gently cupping my face. His eyes searched mine, waiting for any sign to stop. But I gave none. And then he kissed me. Softly, slowly, like a secret too precious to speak aloud. His lips were warm, careful, reverent. My hands found his chest and I felt the beat of his heart, fast like mine. We stood there, kissing under the soft drizzle, surrounded by nothing but the sound of our breathing and the rhythm of the rain. It wasn't wild. It wasn't rushed. It was something deeper. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I've waited so long to do that, he whispered. I closed my eyes, breathless. And now you have. He held me close for a while, his arms around my waist, my hands resting against his chest. I didn't want to move. I didn't want the moment to end. But it had to. When we walked back, he didn't ask to come in. He didn't push anything. He just walked me to my door and looked at me like he already knew how dangerous the next step could be. You still okay? He asked. No, I said softly. But I want to be. He nodded. Then I'll be patient. That night, I stood by the window long after he left, watching the streetlight flicker on the wet pavement. My fingers brushed my lips, still warm from his kiss. I knew I had crossed a line. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt awake. And I wasn't ready to let that go.